Welcome to This Week in Vegas, a Bettors Review. This is Marco D'Angelo along with Vegas Runner, and we're going to talk each week here. We'll have a segment when we talk about what happened this past week in the sports world here in Las Vegas and talk about some personal stories and some trends and angles that we saw develop from the weekend. In VR, everybody's talking about the big NFL favorites. They're covering it at an alarming rate. This just doesn't happen. What's your take on what's happening so far?
A big flip-flop from what we've seen. Coming into this year, that the talk was fade double-digit favorites. Last year, the double-digit dogs in the NFL cashed at 65%. I think you pulled up a clip. I'm not sure exact numbers. What were they?
Here, last 3 years. In 2008, double-digit dogs in the NFL, 20-10 in 2008. 2007, 26-19, and in 2006, 22-14. They've been money every year, but this year they're just getting drilled.
And I think the problem is that the sports books seem to be taking the mentality of this has to turn around. And I think what we're seeing in the NFL is some teams are just that bad. And they're trying. The odds makers did impress me a little bit this week that they raised the odds so much. Even some of these road favorites were 14, 15 points. And that's okay because for a while there, they weren't doing that. And that's where I think the difference between the old school bookmakers and the new school, these new school, especially odds makers, they go straight by their power ratings. They're afraid to do anything that the computer doesn't tell them to do. Where old school, they had a little feel and they don't care. We'll put it out there at 17, let the wise guys get the best of it, it's okay, but the public will bail us out come Sunday, we'll balance our books, and we'll make money. And this isn't happening now. So
far it hasn't, but if you remember a few years ago when the Patriots were on their,
the tear.
Their undefeated, running at, they couldn't bring out a number high enough for most of the season.
And they books didn't even want to take Patriot over parlays or teasers, remember.
But eventually, this is all action and reaction, and Vegas adjusted the lines to the point. At some point, there was value the other way. And this week, on in our blog section, if you go to pregame.com blogs, you can check out a blog from one of our handicappers, and he's also a bettor here in Las Vegas, Stan Sharp, wrote a very interesting article about these big favorites and a couple points that he made in it, which, if you stop to think about it, it's a good point that it's early in the season. So
True.
Teams, they're not banged up and nicked up yet.
Right.
They're
blowing people away.
They're blowing people away. What happens is the season will progress. Vegas is going to keep adjusting the lines because the favorites are winning. So you're going to get more points for the dogs. And as we get deeper into the season, the better teams are going to have some minor, bumps and bruises. Some players are going to be nicked up. And it's going to be human nature for some of these bigger teams, to go through half speed when they're playing a bad team. Let's face it, if you look in the newspaper and you see you're a 15-point favorite,
it's hard to get up.
You can just mail it in and beat this team. And he's saying, watch this turn around as the season progresses, that the dogs will come back.
I think that has merit, and I think we are only a quarter of the way in. Let's not forget, we have 20 weeks of football. We're only on week 6, so there is enough time for the dogs to catch up. And I think what really has merit is what you said. Now they're so hyped, they're fresh. You're coming out enthusiastic. You don't mind punishing and burying teams. As the season progresses, it takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your mind. You want to conserve some energy for what's ahead, and you stop punishing teams when you're ahead, and you get your foot off the gas. It's human nature.
Absolutely.
And I think because of that, there's going to be some value in these double-digit dogs. The problem, so many double-digit favorites covered.
Yeah.
Who's going to take that first step and say, I'm willing to take Kansas City, I'm willing to take Oakland, I'm willing to take these big, ugly dogs that are getting killed?
It will come around. And if you remember last year, I think it was about the 4th week of the season, we were having this very same conversation, only it was with over-unders. Remember at the beginning of the season, everything, I believe it was going over.
Flying over.
And, we said, this is not the norm. It's going to come back. Vegas started adjusting the totals, and then what happened? The next couple weeks, the books balance.
I was surprised 4 or 5 covered this week, because it looked to me like they adjusted, like they got tired of it already. And week 5, you saw them favorites; they were pretty big. I mean, road favorites too. So I mean, odds makers did. That's why I say this week I give them credit with them double-digit favorites. They did what they could. They hung some 16s out there on game day. I mean, you could only go so high.
Absolutely. But our takeaway here from this topic is don't be afraid to adjust. It's going to happen. Be patient. Wait for your value. It's going to be there. If you like these favorites right now, if Vegas isn't adjusting the number quick enough,
with them exactly.
Go with it. But be careful. The lines will adjust, and it will come back the other way. So be smart with your wagers.
And you could make some good, like people that made money betting the double-digit favorites. Once you see that trend start to switch, jump right away on them double-digit dogs.
You're playing with free money.
And you could clean up.
The last part of this segment this week, this is going to be something where, whether it's VR or it's me, if we got a nice story we want to share with you guys or bad beat, whatever it may be, I'm going to tell you guys, living in Vegas, it's great. Saturday night, my fiance, her mother was in town, and her stepfather. First time I got to meet her stepdad, and we went out to dinner at the M, great restaurant, up on top. Afterwards, stepfathers, we stayed. The girls went home, stayed and watched the football games. I had a big play Saturday on Arizona against Washington. Let me tell you, first impressions.
You and a lot of wise guys. Okay. They steamed that play, boy. They went over to 3, up to 4.
I know I personally moved the line at the M, but the situation, I'm trying to make a, good impression, first visit. Watching the game, Arizona's dominating the game up and down
Destroying
the field.
Them, yeah.
We get down there, 12 minutes. We're up 12 points with 3 minutes to go in the game. This is a cinch. They go into the prevent defense. Let Washington move down the field. They get the touchdown. We're still up 5 with little over 2 minutes to play. Washington's got 2 timeouts left. So they don't go for the onside kick. They kick it deep. We take over, 1st and 10. I think we were like at the 27-yard line after the kick return. What's the first play you run? The first play you run, the opponent's got 2 timeouts. You want them to burn
at least one of them.
You want them to burn the first timeout. You run the ball. No. Mike Stoops, I like to call him stupid, throws the ball. Drops back to pass. Quarterback throws it. He looks like he's trying to throw it into the ground. There's, the receiver's not open. Throws behind him. Throws it at the receiver's feet. It hits the guy on the foot and bounces. Ricochets right into the Washington defender's arms, and away he goes for the touchdown. Just sick. Now I'm sitting there. I'm trying to be cool. I'm wanting to just let out the F-bombs. I want to throw my glass through a TV. The problem is I'm at the M. And it's late Saturday night. There was only one other game going on.
Hawaii. Right?
Okay, so there's 25 TVs with the same game on in the sports book. It's like, which
Arizona or one with Hawaii.
Yeah, which TV do I throw the glass at? And then they show the play like 45 times, over again, and I got to see it everywhere. But that was a great first impression. But hey, we lost the game like that, and that's why it's a situation. That's why they call it gambling.
It's going to happen over the course of, we're talking about betting every day, every week. Things like that are going to happen, and they can't, as much as they sting, they can't shock you, and you can't let it carry, onto your next bet.
But it gives you something to talk about. So we'll have this segment each week, and me and VR. We appreciate you enjoying the show, and once again, this is This Week in Vegas, a Bettors Review with Vegas Runner and Marco D'Angelo. We'll talk to you next week.